The Steelers found a way to win over the Baltimore Ravens despite all the stupid, crazy things that happened in that game. How they found a way to win, the best parts, the worst parts, all broken down here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Steelers, your daily Pittsburgh Steelers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter, bringing you your daily dose of all things on the Pittsburgh Steelers. As always, you can find the show on your favorite podcasting apps and on YouTube. Like this video if you enjoy it. Subscribe to this YouTube channel to get all of your daily Monday through Friday episodes because we're your team every day here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel Sportsbook is the #1 sportsbook in all America and the official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. More on them later. Steelers fans, it's a Victory Monday. And my gosh, in the weirdest way, right? Like, I was there at Acrisure Stadium in the press box, and I'm just watching. I'm like, okay, this game's just stupid. It's crazy. It's ridiculous. John Olszewski fumbles, but then Joey Porter Jr. gets the interception. And then, of course, the offense, the one drive, you need them to actually score a touchdown. They do score a touchdown after being completely inept all game long. And then you come out of there and like, oh, that was great. It was insane. There were so many times I was like, of course this happened in this game because it felt like it kept happening across the board. But bottom line is you're finding ways to win even when it's ugly, and that is important if you make the progress later this season. But let's break down specific parts of this game. Of course, maybe the biggest play of this game, maybe even not even a maybe there, but Kenny Pickett, George Pickens, 41-yard touchdown. Is this a sign of what can actually be if this offense just executes, just takes what's there, gives their guys a shot? Maybe. I don't know if that throw happens consistently with those guys, but I do think it was a sign of how good their connection can be to give opponents serious problems. Because go back and look at that touchdown and look at the plays leading up to that touchdown. You can see on this play, and I said this on Twitter late night after the game when I was looking back over and just seeing some of the plays. But on that play, the Ravens call a zero blitz, which means they have no help in the back. It's just one-on-one across the board. And they're trusting Marlon Humphrey to win against George Pickens on that play. And on that play, Marlon Humphrey presses George Pickens in a way that exposes the deeper part of the field a little bit. And I think, just looking at it closer and closer, the more times I've looked at that play, I think Marlon Humphrey was playing for the back shoulder throw because the Steelers had been hurting the Ravens with the back shoulder throw throughout the game. That's one of the few ways the Steelers were actually moving the ball with chunk plays. And in fact, I think they hit one earlier in that drive. George Pickens went 6 catches for 130 yards and a touchdown on 10 targets. And even without that 41-yard reception, it's still 89 yards in the game. He was the biggest threat the Steelers had. No one else even had 40 yards through the air in that game. That was, I truly think that part of what won that play was the connection that Pickens and Pickett had, and it forced Humphrey to guess. He guessed wrong, messed up his leverage, and then Pickens made him pay for it. And Pickens got separation in the end. And Kenny Pickett threw a perfect ball. Maybe his best ball of the season. And listen, it doesn't erase all the bad things the offense did before. We're going to get to that, sure enough. But breaking down that play, that on top of a protection switch that was called out. If you were listening on the CBS broadcast or watching the CBS broadcast, you could hear Kenny Pickett yell out, "Randy, Randy." Now, I don't know all the Steelers checks and processes, but whenever I hear Randy or a name that starts with an R, usually that means something to the right. And if you look back at that play, you can see the offensive line on that play. Kenny Pickett recognized that there was a blitz coming from the Steelers' right side. The offensive line, all their steps collectively go to the right. Darnell Washington, Jalen Warren, they take care of the lone pass rusher to the left. That's what allowed the Steelers to kind of give him a pocket. Kenny Pickett recognized it, even said after the game They were looking for the times they were going to get zero coverage, and they were going to be ready for it, and they were on the biggest play that they made all game. And I'll let you hear from Kenny Pickett himself, because he kind of got into that a little bit after the game in this. Here's Kenny Pickett at the podium after the Steelers win.
Talk about the touchdown play. Is that where you're going the whole time? What happened?
Yeah, they went zero. We were preparing all week, and there's kind of bigger moments that they were going to go zero. Got the protection right. Gave George his route, and he went up there and won. Big time player. Make big time plays in those moments, and that's what we got in 14.
Okay, when that game ended, is that something that can get you individually and the group collectively going? Is that a huge boost?
I think it pushes you that way. Obviously there's ups and downs in the season. There's ups and downs in games, but we found a way to win down the stretch, and I think that's all that matters. It's nowhere near as good as it needs to be. Speaking from an offensive standpoint, we understand that. All the players do, all the coaches do. We're working tirelessly at it to get better and put more points on the board. But at the end of the day, we went down there, we won at the end of the game, and got the W. Going into this bye week, get healthy. Have some guys banged up, so it'll be good to try and get back to full strength. Moving on from the bye week.
Kenny, what was the difference for you in the fourth quarter? It looked like you were maybe more accurate on your throws and maybe more confident in those decisions.
I don't think anything really changed, to be honest. I think we were mixing it up. Had the running pass game working. I feel like we continue to work on that and do more of it. I got to be more accurate and put balls on guys and then run after the catch. So there's always areas to improve, but it was good that we came together as a unit there and executed at a high level to win the game.
Broderick Jones gave you and Mason Cole a lot of credit for checking at the line of scrimmage a lot of times accurately today. Did you do more of that today than in weeks past? And did you do as much as you expected with the Ravens being on the other side?
It's all game plan related. It's whatever we put in the game plan, the coaches put in the game plan that allows me to do it at the line or not, built into certain plays. If they go zero, we always have those answers. We can do certain things. I think we did a really good job of communicating today. I think there's some personnel things we got to get cleaned up. It wasn't as smooth as we hoped it would be or needed to be, but there's all areas that we can improve on. So we just got to continue to show up and get better.
So was part of that game plan built in because you're expecting them to go zero more than the
Yeah, we had more zero answers this week based off what they've shown on tape. Yes.
So because of that, did you go in? I know you always want to try and get the ball to George, but did you go into this game thinking you were going to be able to and you wanted to?
That was the plan. You never know how it's going to play out. You never know how it's going to play out, but that was the plan going into it. If we have those chances to get George, one-on-one, we'll take it. Sometimes they press, sometimes they didn't in zero, so it all depends on the look. And we got the perfect look for it, down the stretch.
This is now your second time against the Ravens in a row that you've thrown a game-winning touchdown late in the fourth quarter to give you guys a lead. What can you say about this rivalry that brings the intensity in the close games that you've been?
Yeah, Coach showed us kind of a tape early in the week of how close the games always are against the Ravens. It's just how it goes in the AFC North. All the teams are so competitive. Great defenses, great offenses going at it every week. So we're saying it's going to be like a marathon type game. It's going to come down to the end. If everyone's doing their job, we'll have a chance to win at the end. So that's exactly what happened.
So that is exactly what happened. It came down to the end here. But a few things to take away from this. One, Kenny Pickett talking about the fact that the Steelers prepared to see that zero blitz look. That does go into game planning. They were ready for that big play, and they delivered in that moment in a big way. I saw a lot of people after the game talking about the way the CBS showed the broadcast. Matt Canada's expressionless face when the touchdown was scored. And people wondering, oh wow, was he mad that they scored a touchdown because that wasn't his play call? It was his play call. The only thing, the adjustment that Kenny Pickett made at the line was just making sure, hey, the blitz is coming from this side. Let's pick it up this time. They picked it up and they made that happen. But and I think that adjustment, that was key. But that was a result of the Steelers being prepared for a specific situation and it paying out. Now, all that being said, this was still a terrible game by the offense. I'm breaking down that one play because it was huge and it got them a win, and a win against an important opponent, the team that was in first place, who you have now snatched first place from in the AFC North. But all that is irrelevant if the Steelers offense doesn't take steps forward. They have so much to clean up in the run game, in the pass game, everything to go. And that includes Kenny Pickett. That one great play, he did a great job in that. And I think that, again, that comes down to his clutch making plays. This is now his fifth game-winning drive, in 17 starts that he's made for the Steelers. This is his fourth quarter comeback officially. That's a very good rate for doing those. but you also would like to be up a little bit more and not having to be toiling as many times as game, because those will come back to bite you. Look at the Minnesota Vikings. They are a huge example from last year to this year. But all the mistakes, all the Matt Canada problems, all the things that you could say the Steelers were ugly in the way that they won this game, they are still 3-2 and in first place in the AFC North and are 2-0 in the division. That's huge, because the Steelers going into last year, they had one division win at the start of the season, and then they were getting slaughtered for the rest of the first half. They now have more wins in 5 games than they had in 8 games last year. And I think that that's a very good sign for doing it. And again, they're not even being good yet. That's the bottom line here, that this is still not a good team right now. And despite their record, despite their wins, and despite them being in first place, this is not a good Steelers football team yet. But it is important to find those wins and find these wins and dig these wins out ugly, because if you do actually grow, the part of the way they grew last season, and they need to grow more than they did last season. But if you do actually grow and you start earning more wins that aren't ugly wins, clean wins, complete games, if they could see that, that can lead to you being so much further ahead of the game in that later part of the season, when you're not trying to come back from being 6 games down in your division, 4 games out of the playoff hunt. And if you're starting to play your best football later, that could be the key to making you an actual playoff contender this season. But there's so many challenges this team has to face and beat for them to be that team and get to that point. So there's a lot to cover. We still got to talk about the defense, because they were the unit that really won this game in so many ways. As much as the Ravens also lost this game, I'll talk about that aspect too in a little bit here. But we have a lot to break down here on the Locked On Steelers podcast, so stick with us. A lot to say about the Steelers' 17-10 win over the Baltimore Ravens. But first, before we do any of that, I want to remind you that this episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the #1 sportsbook in America, and the Locked On Podcast Network's official sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets back guaranteed. Don't need to win your bet. Don't need to lose your bet. You're getting the bonus bet money, $200 right in your FanDuel account when you sign up and bet $5 today. Plus, all customers who do bet $5 will also get $100 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Now is the best time to join FanDuel. The app is easy to use, and you can bet on everything from spreads to player props and so much more. Many ways to win money. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. When you get there, you can pick all the things that you want with the NFL season. NHL is about to start up. NBA is about to start up. The MLB playoffs are going on. College football is here. It's the most wonderful time to bet on sports. So bet on sports at FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Back here in the Locked On Steelers podcast, I'm your host, Chris Carter. We continue our talk about this game. Let's switch it up to the defense. I'm going to start with the thing that I was typing in all caps at the end of this, towards the end of this game, late in the fourth quarter. You know, it probably is. Start Joey Porter Jr. I mean, I think we saw enough from Patrick Peterson and Levi Wallace. And I will say Levi Wallace actually had some good moments in this game. There were 2 times he was tested deep. Both times he was right there for it. I thought he stepped up. Patrick Peterson had some rough moments here and there. But Joey Porter Jr. was out there, and they put him out there in the second half. Start of the third quarter, defense takes the field. And I saw him lining up outside in the regular defense, and the coaches did tell him that he was going to go out there. And he looked ready. I didn't chart how many times he was targeted throughout the game, but I know the one big time he was targeted in the red zone, in the end zone, covering Odell Beckham Jr. from Lamar Jackson. He presses perfectly, wins the spot, looks for the ball, makes the interception, and flips the game around for the Steelers after Gunnar Olszewski almost doomed the team to a loss with his special teams fumble. We'll talk about Gunnar later, but Joey Porter Jr. deserves all the credit for a game-saving interception that he made on the game. Here was Joey Porter Jr. in the locker room talking about that interception and just about what that meant for a guy who his dad was a huge part in this Steelers-Ravens rivalry for years.
They made the change at halftime, Joey, and told you. What did they tell you? They just told me they were going to give me a little bit more series in the game because I wasn't really playing a lot the first half. I think I got about like 4 snaps, so they just wanted to keep me warm, keep me in tune to the game.
Did you start in the base, though, to start the second half?
Yeah, I did.
Did you feel like a payout from all the press work that you've done to improve there in a tough spot like that one to get that interception?
Definitely. I've been working on that since I've been with the Steelers, and, it's never always great, but I feel like I'm at a spot right now where it's getting good right now and just keep working.
Do you feel like you earned more playing time now?
I feel like I did good today. Like I said, it's always on the coaches what they want out there and what they see. So hopefully I put enough good tape out there to keep me out there.
Joey, your dad got the interception ball in the preseason. Will this one end up with him too?
Oh no, this mine's. Yeah, I'm keeping this one. This is going in the house for sure.
What's good interception versus a lot of talk in the draft process? You had one in college. I mean, was that something did that annoy you when you hear that a lot, or did you hear that a lot, or?
Yeah, I heard that a lot going into the process, and I feel like it was just. I didn't like that around my name, that I couldn't catch, that I couldn't make turnovers. So I've been working on that this whole time I've been with the Steelers. Me and my boy Lou, equipment manager, we've been going at it, and he got me right. So every time I get a pick, I shout out Lou. So definitely shout out to Lou.
So Joey Porter Jr., one thing I got to say about him, even just off the field, he's handled this process so well. He hasn't been the starter. He hasn't once, spoke up and said, get me on the field or anything like that. He's just said, I'm confident in myself. Even in that question there where he was asked, does this mean that you're a starter? Are you going to be a starter? And he's like, listen, I think I did my job today. He is handling this so well, and he's playing well in these small doses. And today in a larger dose, I think that you're seeing really great things from young maturity for Joey Porter Jr. as well as young playmaking. Let's see some more Steelers. Start putting them out there some more. Also, other good things about the defense in this game. The edge rushers, they dominate again. Alex Highsmith, I have to check to make sure that this holds up when I go back and look through like all the collective stats, but 11 pressures in this game. Alex Highsmith, and he was getting held all game. I don't know what the referees were looking at, but my goodness, he was just every play running. I mean, there were so many plays Ronnie Stanley was just like, I'm just going to grab your jersey and pull because there's nothing else I can do there. And but even still, he gets 11 pressures, gets a huge game-changing sack, forces another fumble that TJ Watt recovers. That's twice that's happened against an AFC North opponent, and he's huge in that game. TJ Watt, 2 sacks, 2 pass breakups, and the fumble recovery. What can be said? That man is the best defensive player in football. He has, 8 sacks in 5 games? That's a ridiculous rate right now. If that's to continue, he could be on pace to have 24 before the season's even over. And that's with him. That's not even the full season. So that he's on a ridiculous pace. I thought other good things about the defense that I saw. I want to go and look at the all-22 and actually chart this. I'm not sure if I have time because y'all know I got a lot of hats in Pittsburgh, but I want to try to take time to see what was the difference when the Ravens ran the ball when Keanu Benton was on the field and wasn't on the field. What I saw when he was on the field, they weren't going up the middle. Tyler Linderbaum had some good plays in this game where he was just driving Montravius Adams off the ball. It seemed like whenever Keanu Benton wasn't on the field, the Ravens could control the line a little bit better. When he was on the field, that was not the case. If they were going to run, they had to run those option plays and get on the outside and hope that whoever had outside responsibility would make a mistake. But Keanu Benton looks like a difference maker. Also difference makers in this game, the linebackers. We said a huge thing coming into this game, the linebackers had to be so much better than they were against the Texans, and they were. Cole Holcomb did miss a big tackle on the touchdown. They had the option run and let Justin Hill run right past him, but 9 tackles, quarterback hit, tackle for loss, and a pass breakup. Elandon Roberts, 8 tackles with a 3rd down stop on a 3rd and short, huge, that allowed the Steelers defense to keep rolling in the second half. And of course, Kwon Alexander, who he was the best of them, 6 tackles, 3 of those tackles for loss, including a sack. He was all over the place in this game. Linebackers really stepped up to help the Steelers defense. Now, there is still much to be said about the things the Ravens didn't do in this game. 2 drop touchdowns, 1 from Rashad Bateman, 1 from Nelson Aguilar. I think that the Ravens had, 8, 9, 10 drops. They had a lot of drops in this game. It was ridiculous. Lamar Jackson also wasn't exactly the best in this game, even when they weren't dropping the ball. Also, a lot of people were going after John Harbaugh for not kicking the field goal at the end of the first half. And I was too. I was like, that was dumb. But it was revealed after the game, and shout out to Kevin Ostreicher of Locked On Ravens who pointed this out to me and was able to show me where the interview was. But Tyler Linderbaum, Ravens center, messed up on that 4th down. That the Ravens were just trying to get the Steelers to jump to see if the Steelers would go off sides and then give and then give the Ravens more chances, because that would have given them a fourth down conversion on a penalty. But Linderbaum thought Kwon Alexander jumped into the neutral zone, but he didn't. And when he snapped the ball, Lamar Jackson wasn't ready for it, because that wasn't the call. They weren't even supposed to snap the ball. Jackson kind of had to try to improvise. The Steelers were all over it, throws it away. The Ravens literally threw away 3 points with that mistake. And you count that with 2 touchdown drops. Woof, lots of mistakes there. But the Steelers made plenty of mistakes too, like Gunnar Olszewski fumbling, like Kenny Pickett missing some passes all throughout the game. There's a lot of things that can be said with mistake football. The bottom line is, did you make less mistakes, and did you find a way to capitalize on their mistakes? The Steelers did both of those things, and I think that's what helped them win this game in the end. There's still a lot to break down about this game, and not just this game, but also moving forward, what the Steelers have to do, because I still maintain this is still not a good team yet. They've had some good wins. I think there's a lot of potential for this team, but they still have to show more consistently before I say that they're a good team, before I think that they're ready to actually make the progress that they should make this season. We'll talk about what they have to do here on the other side of this break of the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter. Stick with us. Still a lot to come in the show. This show is also brought to you by LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the #1 place to go if you're looking for jobs. So if you're looking for someone to hire, it's also the #1 place for you to go to look if you're a small business employer. Small businesses make a lot of decisions by looking on LinkedIn all the time, because all they have to do is go to create a free job post in just minutes on LinkedIn Jobs. And when you do so, you'll reach not only to your network, but go far beyond that to the largest professional network with over 810 million people. Then all you have to do is add your job with a purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile, and LinkedIn will spread the word that you're hiring, so your network can help you find the right people to hire. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience, so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Job helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Did you know that every week nearly 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn? Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Back here on the Locked On Steelers podcast, I'm your host, Chris Carter. We're breaking down the Steelers' 17-10 win over the Baltimore Ravens. And listen, it's always good to get a win, as long as you get through it healthy, and for the most part. And the Steelers, I don't think, lost anyone in a crazy way in this game. So that's good. But this is why I'm saying the Steelers still aren't a good team. And some of you might be saying, well, duh, Chris, but let me break it down, because there's some people that get mad at me for just pointing out observations whenever I'm breaking things down. But this offense still doesn't know what it wants to be yet. I think that in the second half, especially with the run game, you saw some steps forward. Broderick Jones looked good in run blocking. I thought for the most part he looked good in pass blocking. I have to take a closer look at that. I can't say I haven't, I wasn't focusing on him on the whole game, because there was so much bad about the offense. It was tough to focus on him. But I felt like he stood up well, especially next to Isaac Seumalo, and I think that there could be something brewing on the Steelers' left side of the line that makes them a strong unit. But still, no consistency on offense. There's a lack of rhythm with Kenny Pickett on certain things, and just things that are just off. There was a play in the red zone. Allen Robinson was just open, and Kenny Pickett, he saw it, but then he threw it way too quickly before Allen Robinson broke out of his route, and threw it behind him and high and hot. And it was just man, if they could just get these simple things down. And I know that some of these things may look simple on TV. They're not simple. They're not like the most simplest thing you can do as a team, but these are things that should be routine for NFL teams that they're still not doing consistently on offense. And I think that's the biggest problem that they have. And Matt Canada is certainly part of the blame for this, because as I've said before, I think his biggest problem isn't necessarily as much the play calling as it is getting the guys to just execute these things, especially young players like Kenny Pickett, a quarterback who you should be helping see the field so much better than he is. But all that being said, again, offense, we know they have a lot of work to do. They know they have a lot of work to do. There was no, you even saw Kenny Pickett in that press conference. He was pretty clear, listen, you got the win, but you still got to be better than you are. They know that, and I think that's one thing they're going to work on during the bye week. looking at other things here, I think there's still some serious personnel questions the Steelers have to answer. One, why in the world is Gunnar Olszewski? I'm not even going to finish that sentence. That is the sentence. Why in the world is Gunnar Olszewski? Because I think there's been 4 times he's been involved in a play this year. One was the kick return against the Browns that he caught and tiptoed the sideline. Would have been a great catch, but on a kickoff, when you do that at the 10-yard line, you're giving away 30 yards of field position. Dumb play there. Against the Browns, he also fumbled. That was a bad play. Gave the Browns great field position and put the Steelers in a real bad situation there. And then he fumbles in this game. And I'm just like, listen, I get that Broderick Jones is a nice guy, and I like talking to him. He's a nice guy in the locker room, but he's not giving you anything, and he's hurting you. And that's on the Steelers for keep putting him out there. I don't know what else to do about that. That's the personnel. I don't understand that. At some point, if he's your 5th receiver, because a lot of people are hurt, and Calvin Austin was in the concussion protocol apparently in this game, and you already know Deontay Johnson's out. Okay, I get those situations where it's like, hey, you don't have anybody else, you just throw him out there. But in kick and punt return, whatever, put somebody else out there. Put Desmond King. Let Pickett Fitzpatrick field the punt and just fair catch it. Like just do the basics. Like that's a simple one. Another one I still think is plaguing this defense, but put Minkah Fitzpatrick back at deep safety, man. Let him play the middle part of the field, because that's where he's going to break it down. I know that if you've been listening to or watching this show, you've probably heard me say this. And you're like, okay, Chris, we get it. But they don't do it. And every time they don't do it, I think it's such a big mistake, and it's driving me nuts. And I just don't understand it. And Minkah Fitzpatrick, sure, the defense played well in this game, but there was a play where Lamar Jackson converted a 3rd down to Mark Andrews. They had Minkah Fitzpatrick in man coverage on Mark Andrews. Patrick Peterson was playing the robber role. Minkah Fitzpatrick, was trailing Andrews, ran Andrews right over to Peterson, who was in his robber zone role. Peterson kind of lets Andrews pass him up, and then it's an easy completion for Lamar Jackson. In that situation, wouldn't you prefer Minkah to be in that robber role, because that's exactly where he would make that play? I don't know. There's so many things I still don't get with this Steelers team as far as why certain players are used, including the cornerback situation. I think that at least they saw that at the end of the game. We wonder if that's what they'll hold on to. Joey Porter Jr., will he start outside for the remainder? Has he earned his stripes? I think he has. If he doesn't in 2 weeks, because remember, this next week's a bye week. If he doesn't in 2 weeks, man, there's gonna be a lot of questions to answer there. But that's the thing. There's still so many things about this team that I think are big question marks that are unsolved. But also on the flip side of that, they're winning with all these question marks being unsolved. And again, winning divisional games, winning conference games. They are 3-1 in conference play, and I think that's if the Texans loss did hurt. But if they're able to figure it out and they finish with 10 or more wins, and they've gotten these important divisional wins under their belt, those kind of stuffs can get you tiebreakers against the other teams that are finishing around your record, and that can vault you into the playoffs, which that's the goal this season: get to the playoffs and try to win one. And I think that there's still so much to grow here as far as offense and defense. I think they can still be better against the run. They still gave up 100 yards in the first half, only give up 25 yards in the second half. That was impressive. And I think part of it was the Ravens saw that they weren't getting the push up the middle, because of Keanu Benton being there. So, there's elements like that. I think the coverage still needs to be sharper, because, as much as they did make plays today at times, Joey Porter Jr. did have a really good interception. There were still a lot open. That Lamar Jackson was a better passer and had better receivers, this could have been a lot worse for the Steelers. And there's going to be plenty of teams like that, including the Rams coming after the bye week. So the Steelers have to be prepared in that situation. But I think, again, you go back to this, there's a lot of good things that also are rolling for the Steelers. They should be getting healthier after the bye. We're expecting Deontay Johnson to be back around that time against the Rams or shortly afterwards. We're expecting Pat Freiermuth to be back. And the Steelers really haven't had their full offensive weaponry for pretty much all but the first half against the 49ers. And I think also we're starting to see that the 49ers team is pretty doggone good with the way that they beat the Dallas Cowboys 42-10. I mean, that was as bad, if not a worse beatdown than what they gave to the Steelers. And that's crazy to say because the Steelers were obliterated in week 1. So maybe the Niners were just for real in that one. And that's what they're taking with them. Granted, the Texans, they didn't look too elite against the Falcons in their 21-19 loss to Atlanta, but still, the Niners are looking like the best team in football. But the Steelers themselves, I think right now you put yourself in the driver's seat. You still control your own destiny. You're not going to need a whole lot of help across the board. And I think again, this goes back to what I said before. Last year, they became a much better team by the end of the year than they were at the beginning of the year. If they can take similar progress this year, and as far as just taking steps forward, and they need to not be the same steps. I'm not talking about, just, scoring a little bit more points like they did last year. I'm talking about the offense consistently scoring in the 20s or more, the defense being better against the run, the secondary figuring things out and not leaving as many, open guys, the pass rush coordinating with that against teams that can actually throw the ball. They do those things. This team is competitive, and this team is legitimately competitive, relevantly competitive. But again, there's still a lot of places to go there. Bottom line, stay afloat until you get there. And that's what they're doing right now. And Steelers fans, you got to live in the moment. Don't be, if you worry about what's coming way down the season, you're going to miss the good things that are happening right now. And right now, your team's in first place. They're 3-2. They're figuring things out, and they have time to make progress while still finding ways to win. It's the best way to win when you win, and you can still learn about what you got to go. And in fact, there is no best way to win. Just win. You can, because they still haven't played a complete game. But the point being that I think if they're able to keep winning while learning, it's going to help them in the end, and they'll be a better team for it. And who knows, maybe we'll finally get a complete game later this season. But again, they have a long way to go there. I still have to do my full all 22 review and break down all the different things that I see here for the Steelers. We'll do that and give you our stars and skulls grades for our Tuesday episode here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. Thanks again for tuning in. Remember, you can find us on your favorite podcasting apps and on YouTube. Like this video if you enjoy it. Subscribe to this channel to get all of your daily Monday through Friday episodes. And stay tuned with us because we got a lot to break down this week during the bye week. We're going to try and have different groups of guests and try to do something a little different because we don't have a crossover Thursday with the bye week, but still so much to break down on your Pittsburgh Steelers. Enjoy the win, Steelers fans. You got a win that you can kind of even celebrate for 2 weeks with the bye week, and it always feels good when you beat a divisional opponent, especially the Baltimore Ravens, and putting yourself in a better position. Lots to break down as we continue the week. Thanks again. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Carter Critiques. I'm your host, Chris Carter. We'll see you tomorrow on the next episode of the Locked On Steelers podcast.